I don't think anyone can look at these pictures and read the GAO report and expect that children who go to school in that kind of physical plant can feel valued or appreciated, or even, going without hot water for a year, tells you something about what your position is in life. And I think we've got to begin with that problem. It is so enormously frustrating when we look at this, because as we try and build out a greater opportunities, greater success rates, whether it is lower rates of behavior and mental health, more economic opportunity, more high school graduation rates, we put so many project so many demands onto these kids, but the message they get every day is that they're not really worthy. They're somehow less than other kids, because we would never let this happen in a public school in North Dakota. We would never let this happen. I used to do inspections when I had the fire marshal service under my jurisdiction when I was Attorney General. We shut down schools like this. And so we all share that responsibility, whether it's the folks at BIE, whether it's the folks at BIA, whether it is this committee, whether it's Congress, whether it's the administration. We can't fix this problem without resources. And the difficult problem with getting resources is, until we don't read some of the waste and abuse and fraud, it's hard to convince folks to put more money into this problem. And so that's the impasse. And Dr. Russell, I so enjoyed our first meeting, because I had great hope for the Bureau of Indian Education under your leadership. You came from the Navajo, you understand what it is. Can you tell me, now that you've had over a year since we visited probably, what have been your worst frustrations? You would really like to tell someone what it is. And can you just share some of those ideas with us? There's your chance.
And keep my job.
Now, it's too important to these kids. I know,
Yeah.
I know you, and I know you aren't worried about keeping your
Yeah.
job.
I'll be honest and blunt. We need more money to build our schools. $1.3 billion. Everyone knows that figure, and I think we're starting to get there. I mean, it's a small step, but at least there's hope. Where in the past, budgets were not prepared.
I think some of the cynics would say, how do we know it's not going to get wasted? How do we know it's not going to get deployed in building a school building that isn't big enough for the buses, or fixing a roof that ends up looking like that? How do we know that?
Well, I don't think you could ever guarantee it, but I think that if you have the system and the structure in place that has accountability, lines of authority, I think if you have people that want to do the right thing, and I think they do, I think one of the things is that we need to change the way we view the problem. That I think one of the things that when you ask what am I concerned about, we're in love with the problem. We should be in love with the solutions. And so we focus so much on just reiterating the problems that we never get to solutions.
Do you think that chart's the problem?
I think that chart is part of the problem.
I think that's a big part of the problem.
And I think we're addressing it in our...
Yeah. How do you have accountability when you have that kind of jurisdictional morass? How can anyone be held accountable when everybody can point fingers?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the reorganization that we have in place has clear lines of authorities, not lapped over each other. But BIE, having facilities under BIE will help us, because we'll be able then to drive the proposals for budgets, because it'll come from education experts, not from somebody else.
And I think it's critically important, and this is part of the discussion we've been having. I think it is critically important that you begin almost immediately to address some of the lines of authority, some of the waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't think you can wait for the whole plan to gel together before you start saying we are on top of this, and we will not let offshore bank accounts, we will not let incompetent people with maybe bad motives sign contracts that will not result in improvements to the schools. And so that answer that you gave before, which is, we're waiting to put all this together, I would really suggest that you begin a razor-like focus on the waste, fraud, and abuse, because it's going to be very difficult to get more dollars in this environment without understanding that we're spending every dollar the way it should be spent.
Yes, Senator.
Thank you very